Hello, and welcome to Radio Somatic. I'm your host, Whitney Dawn Pyles, and in each episode, I'll be interviewing inspiring and innovative individuals who are impacting the world through somatics, using the modality we call body-oriented coaching. Each one of my guests is a Somatic. That means they're a graduate of the Somatic School, an online educator that trains coaches to be stewards of the body's wisdom. We'll be hearing their stories and getting particularly curious about how they're carrying this impactful work into their lives and communities. So in the spirit of the Somatic School, my invitation to you is to embrace ease, take a breath in, and allow their words to be a welcome exhale. Hello and welcome to Radio Somatic by the Somatic School. I am Whitney Dawn Pyles and I am joined today by Sarah Howells and Mike Simon. Welcome to you both. And we are here to talk business or the business of coaching. How do we do this thing? How do we bring body-oriented coaching into our career path and really make a living doing this work? And so I think it's going to be a really rich conversation and one that I'm certainly excited to have. So thank you both for being here. Welcome to Radio Somatic.
Thank you.
All right. So if you are a longtime listener or watcher, you probably know that I typically start from people's journeys before finding the Somatic School, but we're going to do something a little different today. We're going to start now. So where we're at in the present moment. So Sarah and Mike, I would love to hear from you on where are you now? Maybe what you call yourself, the title you've given yourself for the work that you're doing in the world, as well as what the work looks like for you today, where we're meeting you right now.
As you said, title, because that is so present. Like for me, literally, as of a few weeks ago, I publicly declared on my Instagram that I'm stepping into what I feel is stepping into a new creative identity. And so, yes, I'm a graduate of the Somatic School and, a somatic coach or body-oriented coach. And I've always resonated with that title. It's always taken a lot of explanation. Like, what's a somatic coach? Which is a good thing, I think, because it opens up that conversation to explore what somatics is. And over the years, I've just tried to find the best and shortest way to explain it, but it never ends up being that way because it requires, for me anyway, a more open dialogue around what somatics is, how it differs to somatic therapy, because I feel that a lot of people sort of latch onto that when they hear somatics. They say, oh, somatic therapy, and they go down the whole somatic experiencing conversation. I'm like, not entirely. There's elements of that might be resonant, but it's not. I'm not a therapist. That's for one. And so for a while, I've been identifying as a somatic coach, wanting and working with individuals who are building their own businesses, like the solopreneur, building online in some capacity, in various different sort of fields, whether they're a ghostwriter, whether they're some sort of service provider, whether they're a coach. Fundamentally, they're building something online, and that's the individuals that I support and work with. However, a few weeks ago, I said I'm going to boldly claim the title somatic dramaturge. And that's another, what's dramaturgy? Like, what is that? I come from an artistic dance background. And when I left the somatic, or when I was leaving the somatic school, I was really interested in how I can bring together the skills that I'd learned in the coaching school, in the coaching space, and bring that into the dance space, as well as working with solopreneurs. But in the dance space, to really support individuals to connect with their bodies, not just from a performative perspective, but also as a source of wisdom, and to also safely, or to explore with more safety, challenging themes in the pieces of work they are creating. because what I found from my own experience as a dance artist is that support isn't really there by way of, an artist is coming into the space, you're asking them to bring parts of their own lived experiences into the narrative, into the choreography, into the movement, and then what? So you're kind of opening up this portal of emotions, of memories, somatic memory in the studio, and then you're performing that day in and day out with no container that is holding that sort of safety, nobody to go to support, and nobody to guide you. So as of a few weeks ago, I'm now going by the title of Somatic Dramaturg, which also requires a lot of explanation, the same as a somatic coach. But hey, that's what's resonating with me more so now. And I feel that, yes, there's the artistic lens, but when I kind of zoomed out and continue to zoom out in how my practice is taking form, I feel like I'm very much supporting individuals to create their own body of work, whether that's their business online or whether that's their piece of work in the studio. It's the same thing. It's just different ways that I'm supporting them. One is maybe more one-to-one or group spaces via Zoom. Others is in the studio, hands-on, looking at creativity from that perspective. So, that's where I'm at now.
I don't even know what that word means, Mike.
Yes.
You,
yes.
like,
Let's
you
go
tell
there.
me what it means.
So a dramaturg is dramaturgy. So it comes from the theatrical realm. And so a dramaturg helps to shape, navigate, massage the story and bring that story to life, bring that vision to life in the piece of work that is being created theatrically. And so I can see myself doing that in the space, but not just from kind of like, this is the script, this is where things should be, I think this could be here, what do you think? But really allowing the body to lead the narrative and to really sort of dial in and be like, okay, this is the move, yes, but where are we coming from? How is this feeling for you? Does this feel safe enough for you to explore? What support do you need in order to bring this character to life, to embody this character? Because that's the thing. Artists, dance artists, actors are coming into spaces and they're trying on somebody else's persona. And at the same time, they're bringing themselves to the character to further develop that. So there's this enmeshment of self and an unknown character. It's you, but it's not you. And I think, at least from experience and observation, and we've seen it in films as well, you've probably heard about it in terms of like method acting, for instance, where the artist kind of doesn't know how to detach themselves from the reality they've created in the piece of work. And so, yeah, a dramaturg will support the narrative, support the story, the vision to come to life in the work. And I see that being very synonymous with the entrepreneur's journey as well, and me supporting the individual to bring forward the truth that lives in their body into the business that they're building.
Beautifully explained. Yeah. And I have the pleasure, Mike and I were in the same cohort. So I have a little bit more information in terms of what this journey has been for you and how long it's taken you to get to at least this moment of clarity. And so I'd love to name that because I think it's important and relevant. But for reference, and we'll dig in more to the journey a little bit later. But I'm just curious to hear if you were naming like how long it's taken you to get to this point of this is what it is. This is what I'm calling myself. Can you just share?
Yeah, for sure.
How long that journey has been?
So I graduated from the Somatic School mid-2022, and we're at the end of 2025. So that's kind of like the timeline. And I wouldn't say that it's been a consistent sort of week by week, month by month dialing in to try and figure out this thing. Like I said, it was only a few weeks ago that this sort of shift came about. But that shift was happening before. I had a conversation with a friend and was explaining to them what I wanted to do. And yeah, that conversation led to me facilitating a workshop, that said workshop a few weeks ago. And in that moment, I saw the thing that I'd been imagining manifest in front of me in that studio space. I was co-facilitating. There was the sort of the leader of the initiative in terms of the workshop, the person that created it, and then there was another facilitator, and then myself. So there was three of us holding the space. My role was to open the space with a practice and also close the space with a practice. And that opening practice, which I have done before, was a room of about 15 black men, some of which they didn't know each other prior. And just witnessing these men, I'll say follow instructions, but it is follow invitations more so than instructions. Follow these invitations, welcome these invitations that I'm sharing with them. And like when you're in a coaching call and you can see that inner processing taking place for the client you're working with, and you're like, you're seeing it. Like no words are being said, but there's a conversation happening within themselves. That is exactly what I witnessed in that studio space en masse. At the same time, everyone in their own little corners with their notepads and kind of like little smirks and kind of little and they're all in their own sort of space. And I'm just like, wow, like this is the thing that I've been saying I've wanted to do, but it was only in that moment that I really sort of felt like this is mine to claim. And that was scary as hell, because it's claiming something before it's fully taken form, which I think we might even end up circling back to in our conversation. Claiming something before it's actually taken form is an interesting space to be in, because I had that conviction that something could be different. This thing could work. And yet it wasn't real yet. And I feel that I kind of had to make it real for it to become real, by way of claiming it, the thing, and saying, you know what, this is what I'm stepping into. I haven't got it all figured out yet. I don't know what, my methodology or the framework would be with this, somatic dramaturgy. I got ideas, but I don't know what it is yet. I'm still feeling convicted and still walking with that faith to claim this thing. Not to say that nobody else can't claim it as well, but I need to claim it in order for me to move forward. And I feel that sometimes we kind of want the thing to maybe already exist for us to step into it and it already be established. But when you're kind of creating something of your own on the entrepreneurial journey, you got to step into the thing before it exists. So yeah, it's been a journey. It's been since 2022, mid-22 to now. And it's Monday the 22nd. Interesting. Where yeah, it's been percolating beneath the surface, and little glimmers of like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I like that title, but no, it doesn't quite resonate. And this, and then there was kind of like the fear of, because a dramaturg is a title. People study for that alone. But I'm not claiming so much that academic route. I'm claiming the combination of the two words that for me really fit together. And the more I explain and the more I deepen in it, seems to resonate. There's many people I've spoken to already, and they're like, oh my gosh, this makes sense. Like, yeah, I get it. Now you've explained it. It makes perfect sense. So yeah, it's been a journey to kind of get to this point. And I feel like it's been a journey to get here, but I'm at the beginning. of what this point is now. Because I've only now, okay, I've claimed this. Okay, now what does this actually mean? What does this allow me to do? Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. And yeah, as you're saying you're at the beginning, and I'm also, as I'm listening to you, imagining just these multiple cycles intersecting, because I felt like there was really a both and in what you shared of like taking action and being in process and doing the thing and putting yourself out there as a working coach as you're still learning and evolving and allowing the specificity to like emerge for itself. So it felt like, right, there's this both and of there's something here, I'm going to claim it. And as you're talking about the journey, it also feels like there's a sense of openness to even receive that level of clarity, or this moment, this level of clarity that's now taking you forward in this specific or next journey. And that feels really, that feels really true for me just in talking about my own journey is, okay, what's A to B right now? What am I doing right now? What are my resources? What are the threads? What am I bringing together in this moment? And so having enough certainty to step forward and create from that place while also leaving room for what wants to emerge or what wants to become clear. And so I'm also hearing that, very body oriented coaching skill, right? Following, allowing these things here. So yeah, thank you. I'd love to hear from you, Sarah, on where you're at now, what your work is, what you call yourself, when we talk about career and life and work, what that consists of in this moment for you.
Absolutely. I resonated with so much of what Mike was saying there about claiming before it's fully formed. I really like that. What am I calling myself currently? So I have two roles as a coach currently. I work for myself I guess I call myself a creative coach. I don't have it anywhere specifically that I've actually written that. I'm just thinking that now. My website is quite about what I've done in the past and what I can bring, but it doesn't say the something coach. But coming back to that in a moment, I am that is something that's changing at this moment, and I'm starting to get excited about what that could look like in the future. But yeah, so privately, I work with people and their creativity primarily. That is how I've shaped and described myself, because for 15-20 years I was a full-time music artist, so that's my background. I'm also a photographer, so it really made sense to me that I would help people on that journey. I was doing a bit of music mentoring before I joined the Somatic school and before I became a coach of any kind, and it always felt really good to be able to share it was mentoring at the beginning because it was very much information sharing and some advice giving. So it was quite different, I guess, from the somatic coaching that I now do. But I knew that I wanted to work with people in that field, that was kind of why people would choose me, essentially, or how people would find me. And I knew that was the space that I felt really comfortable in. So creative coaching was kind of this overarching title for working with creatives. But in the early days, I did market myself in a different space, like in two different places. And in one space, I just purely went with somatic coaching. And like Mike said, a lot of people coming through were interested in somatic therapy. There was a lot of people that were talking to somatic therapists and me and, the coaches. And so it was interesting. Like, I obviously was always honest about not being a somatic therapist, but I shared that some of the tools were similar. And so I did sometimes work with people that decided that they wanted to work with me, given all the information and the, having an honest background as to what I could offer. I did work with people who just wanted that. who, they would sort of throw in that they were creative, because they felt that was what was needed to work with me. But quite often it wasn't the case that was what they were focusing on, or it was just an aspect of their personality rather than their path. So there's that. So yeah, it's been a quite organic process. It's been quite sort of, I wouldn't say messy, because each of the sessions and the clients has felt very intentional and very focused. I haven't ever felt like that wasn't clear and it wasn't enjoyable. But it has been this really sort of like you said both, and with starting and seeing what emerges, like letting the process, kind of letting my work teach me as well, if you know what I mean. It was kind of informing me, because as well as that was the very early start of my journey. And then I also got a job with a charity, an organization that work with unpaid carers, and I was employed as a wellbeing development officer. It's kind of a loose title. It was just all about sort of community building and answering calls and things like that initially. But when it was clear that there was a need for something else, I introduced the fact that I had a coaching certificate and offered that. It's like, why don't we offer this as one of the offers that because we were building a sort of collection of wellbeing activities and wellbeing resources for unpaid carers. And I suggested that I could do some coaching as part of my work. And that was embraced. And we ended up getting funding for me to do it outside of my work hours, because it was just a part-time role. So in that instance, I market myself, not market, but I share with our clients that I am a somatic coach. And those people are coming purely because they're based in a certain part of London and because they're unpaid carers. So really the creativity aspect of it has nothing to do with it. If that emerges in the conversations, because people aren't seeing that on the website or anything. So if it emerges that they're also creative, then we can that can be a really interesting part of the conversation, but generally it's not. So there's these really two separate places in which I'm coaching. And I think, like we were saying before we started recording, like it's really, that's been part of what's given me this this framework and this sort of secure base from which I could build my own business and coach at the same time. But maybe that's like for a conversation just as we progress along this call. But so I'm somatic coaching for the carers organization, and I am creative coaching privately. But what's starting to become clear in I think that anyone who's already coaching will admit that there's sort of sessions that you feel bring out your best side, and you're sort of feeling really like you flourish in some of these sessions, or just that I mean, every session is unique and important and is really important, but there's areas in which you sort of start to feel like this really resonates with me, and this is something that I really feel drawn to go further into. So I'm starting to think about something along the lines of fulfillment, because what I noticed in the creative coaching was that I primarily was working with artists and people that wanted to make a music career. But there was often, not always, but there's often this kind of question around, how do I get fulfillment from this practice? The music industry is a very difficult place to be. Everyone would admit to that. There's no negativity in saying that. It's just really honest. It is a very difficult thing to navigate if you're trying to, whether or not you're trying to make a living from it or not, it's very complicated and involves a lot of self-promotion and things like that. And, in a way similar to coaching does. But what I found with initial clients was that they were looking for something from their creative practice, and they sometimes found it in other places, or they were looking to achieve goals. They were looking to achieve things with these goals that they were setting, and then they were finding that other things were making them happy and that other things were really fulfilling them, and that these goals, while they were still important and their creativity was still a really big part of their life, it wasn't something that was necessary, if you know what I mean. It wasn't like, which, as a coach, maybe that's a really controversial thing to say, is that suddenly the goals weren't important. But I really loved the aspect of people learning what was fulfilling them and learning what was making them happy and who they were, and not needing to prove themselves any further. Like they still wanted to achieve things and they still wanted to do these beautiful, makes works of art and launch themselves, but they weren't necessarily like hung up on doing this stuff. So again, it's really organic, and there's lots of different ways I work with people, but I'm really enjoying this idea of focusing on fulfillment for people and what will bring them a sense of peace, and whether that's creativity or their relationships or the way they interact with the world or the way they approach money or anything like this. I'm looking for a way to frame that, and also, to advertise myself, because, essentially if we're talking about business here, it is like, how do I attract people to me and prove that with my background and who I am, that's something that they should come to me for. How do I link the aspects of my experience together to show that? So yeah, I'm probably rambling, but fulfillment is a big word for me right now, and I'm trying to navigate how I sort of integrate that into what I'm offering, and to sort of widen the scope of who I can work with, and just bring some of that into this coaching practice.
I think there's so much value in our rambles on this podcast. So, beautifully said. And this idea of there's a couple things that, as you were speaking, were really coming through for me. A couple things that I find interesting. One, and also connected back to what Mike was sharing, there's something about like the being in process of it all, and beginning and starting. And, before we hit record, we were talking about this concept of footholds. What's the next foothold? Imagining someone rock climbing and, leaping, whatever cliche, leaping and the net will appear, whatever we want to insert there. There's something here about that. And I'm really resonating in my own business journey with, okay, what do I know in this moment? I know, for me, it was very much, I went through the Somatic school and I was like, wow, like this is the bridge that connects the coaching with the dance and movement work I was doing. I want to do this. I want to be a body-oriented coach. Now, did I have much clarity past that? No, but as I've come into this world and stepped forward or stepped to the side or lunged or launched or whatever it is, there's been so much learning about my own presence as a coach, learning about myself as a coach, how I show up, what becomes possible as a result of my warmth, empathy, the way that I hold a space. I've learned about myself. I've also learned about myself in the context of, like you said, Sarah, who am I working with? How am I working when I come really alive, when I feel fulfilled, when I feel creative, when I feel on and in it, and it's just so dialed in, and you feel the physical, even through a screen, because I do a lot of virtual, but like you feel that physical, palpable, I'm here with this person. I've had to learn about who that is for me. So I'm learning about my presence. I'm learning about my own process, what really resonates and for who, as well as what lights me up in all of this. And so I think there's something here for me about how important that is to begin with what you have and what you know, and then allow yourself. And I just said this, like my last reflection, like being open enough to notice where are we from here? Where am I from here? Where do I want to go from here? And I think in that, we talked a little bit about this before we hit record as well, but just in listening to other business related podcasts or episodes of other podcasts or whatever the content, and taking in content on social media. I think what's so powerful about body oriented coaching, certainly in the way that I understand it, I think there's a wonder or a fascination or an acknowledgement or an honor of everyone's process being different. And so following that. And I think we get a lot of formula and one size fits all, or we might listen to something and think, this is the one way to be successful. This is the one way that this should look. This is how a coaching business should look. But even what I'm hearing here in this being attuned to our process is that there's as many different shades and flavors of this as there are coaches or whatever our title is in the world. And I'm finding something really nourishing about that, and about, and as we're talking too, like there's a couple of themes that are coming up. And one, I think, as you're building a business, having some sense of security, and that sense of security looking different for different people, whether it's keeping a full-time job or whether it's having something about what they do being connected to an organization, or it's a spouse, or it's a certain way of life that's going to allow for some level of experimentation, whether that's, budgeting differently or making different choices about where we're living or how we're living, so that we feel like we have this foundational place from which to grow. And so as you were both speaking, there was something about our own definitions of the security that we need so that we feel grounded in how we're moving forward in our businesses. So that's here for me. And there's also something about success, and that success looks different for any given person doing this work. And it also sounds like, from what you both shared, is that also within the context of ourselves and our own work, that shifts our own definitions, our own needs, whether it be the need to feel grounded in something or it's what we're reaching towards. Those definitions might change over time. So anyways, that's my ramble. But there's something really, I find very nourishing in this conversation about, what am I noticing? What's here for me? What do I need? What might I want to create? What other factors might I consider so that I can be moving from a place of feeling really rooted, so that I can be open enough to observe what wants to emerge for me and through the context of this business. So, I'm just, I guess what that makes me curious. I'm curious to hear if anything of that resonated for either of you. And I'm also really curious to hear about like what you've needed and what's felt important to you as you're growing. What is that foundation for you that's allowed you to be nimble in this process? And what do you feel like you're reaching towards in terms of your own success and where this might go for you? I'm really curious to hear your like definitions or impressions of that.
Yeah. I was just going to jump in and say that when I was thinking about what I needed, I'm not sure I was always aware of this, but variety is something I've come to notice that I really need to maintain my passion for what I'm doing in any aspect. So when I move from something without, I just need variety. So because I also still work as a photographer, freelance, just ad hoc, really random, don't chase the work, but it comes in now. And I also I'm still a working music artist, recording artist. And so what I found in the way that I've been really lucky that I had this 3-day-a-week job where I could practice my somatic coaching, and I could bring that for free, because the clients get it for free through the charity. And so it felt really good that I could bring that to these people. People who are giving up so much of their time for others, that I'm able to do that. for them, and I get to sort of focus on the much more body oriented aspect of what I do, of the coaching that we trained in, because it really enhances the life of, you know, someone with working who's a carer, an unpaid carer. But then from the creative side, that freedom, it allows me the freedom to just kind of experiment a little bit. I think that grounding for me, the 3-day-a-week job, the fact that I had other income, like I still had residual passive income from music and things like this, it was so freeing. I mean, that, you know, I feel really lucky to have had that. It was because it was daunting. It was really daunting to come out as a coach and be like, what now? You know, how does this work? I was also very lucky that I had a social media platform with some followers. And for that reason, you know, offering myself out as a creative coach, it really helped me to get my first client quite quickly through just sharing for free, you know, on social media, just putting it out into the universe. So I have that, and that client was so positive and so complimentary and stayed with me for 2 years. Almost 2 years. He recently left. But I also feel like you learn and you grow in confidence from doing. Doing is what breeds confidence. And I really needed to just get out there and do it. I think if I'd chucked everything in the air and was just like, I'm going to be a coach and I need money from it instantly, it would have been very scary. And I would have put a lot of pressure that personally I wouldn't have thrived under that much pressure. It wouldn't have felt good for me. So the freedom to experiment and to sort of find my feet and to feel so lucky to have such, you know, beautiful clients that came through in the early days, where I really felt like that we were just growing together. It was very lovely. Yeah. So but I'm really keen to hear how it was for Mike.
There's so many parallels with what you shared, Sarah. Like my first client being someone from the community, the wider community, artistically. And that was, you know, through, I was invited to do a speaking event online, and then we connected. Yeah, it just kind of trickled from there. But I feel that me already having that background and that experience that related to where that individual was also coming from really helped, despite the fact I wasn't marketing myself as like how you as a creativity coach. My Instagram profile, for the most part, is filled with dance artists, dancers, and people that I've connected with along the way. So when I kind of was like, yeah, I'm a coach, and mentioned the body and stuff, I think there was automatically sort of this ping and this understanding for some people. So yeah, my first like long-term client was someone from the community. So yeah, I give thanks for, I guess, having an Instagram profile and sharing things before I even got my coaching qualification. And also I resonate in terms of, you know, having other areas of financial support. So I'm still in full-time work. And interestingly, when I started exploring the online space, there was a part of me that wanted to hide that truth. There's a part of me that felt, the story I was telling myself was that, well, if I let people know that I'm working a full-time job, then maybe they won't see me as professional enough as a coach. Because surely if you were successful even, and that can kind of segue into some of that conversation around what success is. But like, well, surely you can't be successful if you're still working a full-time job, because you should be making 10K a month. And it's like, nah, bro, like that's not my reality. And I've spoken to many individuals, like in the DMs, or even individuals I've supported in coaching, that so many things have come up, and this would be a good 2, 3, 4-part conversation around, I feel, an overlooked strategy to building a solo business sustainably is having a job, having another source of income, however that looks like. If it's your partner, a family, something to allow you to F around and find out. Like, yeah,
Totally.
like,
Yeah.
because And even, when we start kind of looking at it from a nervous system, body oriented lens, that sense of safety is what allows us to be online, to have that creativity and that exploration. And when we haven't got that sense of safety on a cellular level, even, let's take away the conceptual, the intellectual side of things. Yes, we're getting by day to day, but there's this part of us that is clinging to what allows us to feel safe, which often looks like grabbing invitations, opportunities, things that aren't aligned for you because all your system needs is safety. And that client who isn't aligned for you, who isn't willing or able or has the resources to pay the fee that you want to put out there, you'll take them anyway because you need the money. Because now you're operating from a place of feeling unsafe, a bit of scarcity, due to the nature of your circumstance. And I then kind of segue in to say that similar to you, Sarah, I couldn't feel safe enough solely relying on this infant, because it's an infant at this stage. I mean, my business and still, I mean, I don't know, 2022 to now, you're still a baby. It's still a baby in its development, in its business cycle journey. And I can't remember because I graduated a long time ago. But there's a business cycle where it shows you the growth, the sort of conventional growth of a business, and it obviously has that sort of embryonic stage, that infant stage. So I've always said that's an overlooked strategy because I believe you need safety in order to build something substantial. And that has really helped me to be able to, I think you asked kind of what have we needed, right? That is what I probably didn't realize I needed because I already had it. But I know that if I didn't have it, it would be something that I would need, right? To support me financially so that I can be in the process of figuring things out. And as you were sharing, Whitney, that you kept saying the word process, and that was really ringing to me because there's such a correlation between the nature of body-oriented coaching and the emergence and the being in process. We're not trying to intervene. We're not trying to, what's the word? Ignite, discharge, from a more like therapeutic trauma perspective. No, we're in process, client, person-centered coaching. And so you mentioning process, I was feeling this tension between process and striving for perfection. And I feel, at least for me, that in the striving to get the thing right, in the striving to have the perfect offer, the perfect title, the perfect, methodology, way of doing things, that we can shortchange ourselves of being in process because we're trying to get there a bit too quickly. And I feel I adopted this ideology of striving for perfection, which hindered me to being in process. I think, looking back now, I think it hindered me from really being able to be in that process and not have to figure it out so quickly, because it makes sense from a sort of practical perspective. We believe we need to have it all figured out in order to do the thing. We need to have the irresistible offer figured out so that we can actually then market ourselves and put it on our website, etc., etc. And my experience has actually been the complete opposite, as in putting out what you have from where you are now and allowing yourself to still be in process and refine the thing whilst you're putting it out. Now, that's a very uncomfortable position to be in, especially when we've got the growth gurus on social media talking about authority. Position yourself as an authority on social media. And an authority, in that perspective, somewhat pedestalizes the individual, the coach, even though those people, a lot of the time, they're not actually coaches. But again, that's podcast number 2 and 3, right? They're pedestalized because they're putting themselves in this, or wanting to ascend to this authoritative position, to therefore charge how much high ticket, whatever they want to, and make it seem like they've got it all figured out. They haven't. I'm still figuring it out. Sarah, probably Whitney, probably still figuring things out. And I think it's a lie that we can easily lap up so quickly, because that's what we see. We see, yeah, this is the offer. It's like you're making an offer before you've actually connected with yourself. You're making an offer before you've connected with yourself. Who is it that I want to serve? Why is this work? Why do I feel this work would be impactful for this particular group of people? What is it that has led me to this work? This is something that I was doing in my program with my cohort, identifying the story that has led you here. Because I think there's such great power in identifying the lineage that has led you to where you are now, and using that to almost give a bat signal to your people. And I think there's a level we need to kind of understand the line of not blurring too much of our story into our practice, so that it kind of leads people to believe that they can get the thing that we have or have had. And that's a dance that I'm still figuring out, but I definitely struggled with in the beginning, because it was like, this isn't coaching. I can't talk about my life and my experience and use that as marketing, because then people might think that that's what they're going to get. I think we definitely need to bring ourselves forward to speak to those kind of people. Sarah, you were speaking about sharing your expertise as a recording artist and so forth. That I'm believing sort of spoke to a type of person that brought them in, right? So yeah, kind of tying that bit up, tension between process and perfection. And what really helped me was having a job to support me so that I can invest in things, to help me to move along in what I didn't know. And also having people that I could connect with, whether it's in real life or online, that are on a similar path or just got it. Because it's weird. To some people, it's weird. What, you just go online and you talk to the camera and you write content and you get clients? Like that can go over people's head, especially when they're so used to a conventional way of making money.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with some of what you were saying about for me, it's really, this is the reason that I said I was thinking about the fulfillment coaching rather than marketing myself specifically towards people wanting to come into the recording artist space or the musician space, because I don't know how I always feel about what I'm doing as a music artist. And I do not at any point feel that I want to just share, this is how you do this thing. And obviously that's not coaching anyway, it's mentoring. But I started off attracting people because they see that I've done something they might want to do similarly. They might want to follow my footsteps in some way, or but I really just saw that everyone had way more, just so much more of an interesting story and an interesting perspective on why and how and what they wanted to do, and was it what really made them happy. And then they would say, some of the creative aspect would come in and they'd be really interested in that as well. And it's like, I want to be open to all of this. I don't want to just be focusing on this one thing and saying, I can get you here. Because I don't even know if I don't know if I want to be there. I don't know if that place that I'm saying I can get you to is a happy place for everyone. I don't know if it is for me sometimes. And life is so much more complex and beautiful than just getting to one specific place. And so yeah, for me, it was really not about being an authority figure in a space. It was about saying, the journey that I've been on has opened my eyes to I have learned so much about myself, and I want to help you to go on a journey to learn lots about yourself as well. I mean, if that's what people want, that's what I'm there for, not to tell them how to get 10,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, which to start with, I was like, Oh, I don't know how to do that anyway, but start with I've had that in the past, and it was like that could be a draw. Not that that's a very big deal, but there's other benchmarks in the music industry that you can say, I've done this, so I can help you do this. But yeah, I just wasn't feeling that wasn't fulfilling me, and I wasn't seeing that I wanted to go into that and be talking about that day in, day out. Like, how can you get this? Because I cannot guarantee that will be something that'll make you happy. And that's everyone's personal, decision of what will make them happy, not for me to tell them what will. But I just really wanted to be open to this, like the wider part of life, and just use the tools and the process to support people on their journey. So yeah, for me, even though we're told to niche down there's so much about niching. And yeah, I mean, I get it. You have to say why why me? Like, why me? Why come to me? I need a reason, and I understand that. And people who are experts in marketing can help us to figure that out, and that's what they're trying to niche down. But like, I do not want to. I don't believe that anyone is an authority in much anyway, and I want to. I think that being open to the not knowing and being that's what keeps you curious, and the curiosity is what's good coaching. Actually, I didn't mean for that word to come out again when we said what we were bringing to it at the beginning, but yeah, like for me, that is really what keeps you curious. Is not that I'm going to get you to this place. It's like, or the place is more internal rather than external. Maybe that's what I've just realized, is that that's what I want to do. I want to get people to a place internally, and that's not going to be through some set pathway that I'm like going to put everyone on, like some sort of like training program. You know what I mean? So yeah, internal place to arrive to.
Oh, yeah. And I feel like this is such a theme too. It's like, how do you talk about this? How do you talk about this in a way that brings people into your ecosystem? And I love what you just said of just identifying, like, no, it's not doing what I've done. I'm not quite sure about that, but what is it for you? And I mean, you're sharing that reminds me, first of all, of my own business, and something that I've really wanted to share here, that's felt present through this conversation, which is you make this decision, right? You make this big decision. This is the direction that I want to go in. I feel this is speaking to me, and I feel like this is important to share with the world. And so you come to this point, you make this decision. In our case, we train as body-oriented coaches, as somatic coaches. There's something right here for me. And then you complete, and you have this training behind you, and you have this curiosity, and you have so many different avenues you might take it, because we're all very curious people, innovative people, creative people, empathetic people. There's so many different directions. And so what I'm hearing in your own ways, and something that I certainly relate to as well, is coming out and saying that there's this bigger picture, and there's so much potential and opportunity. And then there's this coming back into what's here, what can I really stand in? And that's been, right, Mike mentioned, like, that's staying with his full-time job. Sarah, you've mentioned, this ability to practice somatic coaching and do somatic coaching through the lens of this organization, through this charity, and then also kind of standing on what you had already built in a previous career, and having that be something that has some intersection with the work that you're now doing. And I really relate to that what's here inquiry that happens at the end, because I jumped off the cliff, and what was grounding and foundational for me was being in a double income household, for one. And second, I had already been facilitating intuitive movement and free-form dance, and that became hosting local collaborative wellness retreats. And so I had my business, but this piece of my business that I could stand on 2 decades of dance teaching experience and really feel grounded in that piece of my business as I was imagining and developing and seeing one-on-one clients and just being there for what wanted to emerge in this part of it. And I was finding the connection between those two worlds. And so really what's here for me is this idea of what can I stand in and what's going to give me a sense of security and confidence that's going to allow me to be open to what wants to emerge in this new piece or this new part or through this new work. So I'm appreciating that. I'm feeling like that's so important, that inquiry of like, okay, it could be anything, right? It could be a job. It could be a spouse. It could be a previous career. It could be a skill set, but like, what can I stand in and what can I weave from here so that it doesn't have to be like that forever. That doesn't need to be my permanent reality, but it's what's going to allow me to really explore and build and understand like something like it's not about this external goal or intention someone might have or desire someone might have. It's really about connecting them to their own sense of fulfillment, as you said, Sarah. And I mean, it's almost like the medium is the solution. Like everything we're talking about does feel like you're looking at the arc of a body-oriented coaching session. You know, you begin somewhere and you allow for evolution and you let the process unfold and all of that. And so I'm loving that quality too. And, you know, we have to go soon. But what I would love to, I mean, just this concept of this looks different for everyone. The passion is there, the desire is there, then the training is there. And then you keep putting these building blocks in place and you get to decide and you get to be empowered in that journey and what your foundation is and what you're reaching towards and what you're holding space for in terms of your own process and the process of your business. And I love that. And so it has me really wanting to end here with this question of what does success feel like to you? What is success in your life, in your business? What does it feel like to you?
Success to me is being able to lead a life that is supported, where I'm supported, which enables me to support my family in a way that is not rushed or, you know, chaotic all the time, and doesn't pull me away from myself. Like for me, that ultimately what underpins the success is that for me, because I could have a whole load of money through working, clients, whatever, and I could also not have all of those things underpinning me to keep me supported, grounded, connected with myself and with others. And for me, that is what the true success is. Yeah, I want the money for sure, but I don't want it at the expense of not having those things that keep me grounded and that allow me to actually enjoy life, because otherwise I'm just creating a job that I hate. I don't see the point of that. Of create, if I have the choice, which I do, because I'm choosing this path alongside what I'm already doing work wise, but I have the choice to create the thing exactly how I want the thing to be. Why would I then choose it to be, you know, almost like a prison that looks good on the outside, that generates money, but I'm sort of locked in here and I'm not actually fulfilled? Right? I'm not fulfilled, right? Because it's so easily done when we focus on success. This literally feels like a coaching session. When we're focusing on this success, on being outside of us instead of being inside of us, then we can go. We then become further and further away from that core of our being, that fulfillment, that part of us where we feel grounded, supported. You know, we feel resourced. We're enjoying life. We have that zest for life. If that's If me trying to achieve that means that I can't have this, then I don't want that. You can keep that. Like I'd prefer, the richness within. I think Bob Marley speaks about it. Kind of like that. It's within you. It's within you. So yeah, success for me is not external. Um, it starts from the inside, and then we kind of see some of the what's the word? The things are created. Yeah, the benefits are kind of coming out of that, but we need to know what success feels like rather than what success looks like.
Mm, absolutely. Yeah, all the things. I love that. I think for me, the first word that came up when you said success was growth. So I want and have luckily created this place where I can continually grow as a person. So I feel like I often understand more about what I think when I'm in a coaching session. When I'm learning from my clients, I'm learning from anything that I say. I sort of make sure that I always reapply that to myself. I have to do that all the time, and it's so reinforcing. To what is it reinforcing? I don't even know, but it's my beliefs, my values. Just learning. I'm just learning all the time, and I love that. I love, like I said, variety. That would definitely be a marker of success, and I've achieved that so far. I think just wanting to make sure that that um, that each of the clients and the sessions I'm feeling like I'm flourishing, that I'm able to help the person flourish from, like, we're growing. I think you used loads of great adjectives when you reflected back what I said. I think you said something similar, Whitney, and you used way better words than I can find right now. But yeah, growth. I think just growing and learning and developing as a person through the work, and then seeing that coming back from the clients is that's the most exciting part, and that's what feels like success.
Beautiful. Thank you both. I'm gonna define it for myself in this moment. Sarah had asked before we hit record if I would share about my own experiences, and I don't always do that, but I will. I am, because it feels important, and there's a clarity that's come through this conversation for me as well. How I've defined it in the past has been what that other person is experiencing over there as a result of my presence or whatever it is. Workshop, coaching session, name it. Years ago in 2023, I created an interactive art installation called the Zone of Authenticity. And I was really trying to create a physical representation of what I was experiencing through my work, and what I created. I don't have to go into, but it was this moment of softening, where someone hears something or says something or does something or experiences something that allows them to feel like, I can be myself here. I can be myself here. I can be my full self. And that's okay. And I can be in process and it's enough. And it's taken a long time to realize that also for me, that is what success feels like a softening or a melting away of whatever shield or sword or mask that I might be wearing, and just being able to show up, and be who I am, and support myself and my family while doing that. I think success to me is having a business in which I'm not anyone else but me. And yeah, and I think that I've done that, and that's a great barometer. And where do we go from here? So thank you both so much. This has been, of course, no shocker, just a lovely conversation. And so I think my encouragement here to listeners, watchers would be to sit with some of these questions yourself. What does success feel like to you? What did you hear in this conversation that felt really nourishing to your system or inspiring to you? And just beginning your own process of inquiry from there. So that is my encouragement. Yeah, I'd love to end with, what are you leaving here with? Mike and Sarah, what are you leaving here with?
I'm leaving here with, can't quite find the word for it. So I'll explain around it and maybe the word will come. I'm leaving here with this feeling of connection, of feeling understood, and that not aloneness in the journey. Like hearing Sarah speak about her experiences, and it's like, yes, we need to hear more conversations like this, I feel, to sort of reorient to something that's a bit more true and a bit more real in terms of many people's experiences, because maybe what we see is only a small portion of people's experience, maybe like the 1% of those that we see with the sponsored ads on social media, and we know what they are. And there's just something I'm leaving here feeling nourished. That's what it is. I'm leaving here feeling nourished from this conversation and the topics that came up, and connected with Sarah for the first time and everything. Yeah, it's been really nourishing. It's been really good.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, nourishing. I love that. And yeah, likewise, absolutely inspiring and comforting and heartwarming to hear from you both and connect with you, Mike. And there's something so authentic about this discussion that I've really enjoyed. That's what I value above everything else, and I am so glad that's what was here. I thought it probably would be, but I'm really, really glad that that's what what I feel like we've created. I would say what I'm taking, some phrases. First off, I'm claiming the space before it's fully formed. I really loved that idea right at the beginning. You're saying about just stepping into, you kind of have this idea of where you're going with your coaching practice, and you're kind of claiming it, and then it'll become more apparent as it'll emerge. I love that. I think that's where I'm taking my fulfillment coaching. And something I said, if that's allowed, when I think I said something about the goal being internal, and I don't know, it's so simple, but it was the first time I'd actually really come to that conclusion quite with that much clarity. So, and no surprise that it's from body orienting coaching that's the case, but for me that feels like something I really want to lean into more, when maybe that'll be something that'll even come up in the marketing. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, listeners, watchers. This is Radio Somatic by the Somatic School. I'm Whitney Dawn Pyles, and this is our last episode of the season. So see you next season, and thank you for being here. I hope that you found something in this that sparks something new or surprising or nourishing for you.
That's our show, folks. I hope you found something nourishing, enjoyable, or inspiring in today's episode. Thank you for being here, and see you next time. In the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram at Radio Somatic. You can also find out more about the Somatic School and our accredited diploma in body-oriented coaching at thesomaticschool.com, or follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. This is Whitney Dawn Pyles, encouraging you to stay present, stay curious, and stay connected.